welcome to what's really happening in Southern Utah. In studio today we have Mayor Garth Green, and we are so excited to have him here to share what his vision is and what he is truly passionate about. How are you, Garth?
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, of course. So with the new changes that are coming down the pike and the new development of Cedar City and things going on, kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your passions and what you're excited about.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm a native. I was born and raised in Cedar City. I went through the school system here and actually started a banking career at the old First Security Bank in Cedar City, now the Wells Fargo. I did a banking career, then I came back to Cedar City because that's where I wanted to live. My mother was still alive. I wanted my children to know their grandmother, and I wanted to live in my hometown. I started a plumbing supply house, and I ran it alone. I went from a job at a bank where I had supervised 13 banks and sat on the senior loan committee to a job where I cleaned the bathroom, restroom, and sold the product at the counter, stocked the shelves. So all because I wanted to live in Cedar City. And that company has now become Southwest Plumbing Supply and has nearly 300 employees.
What an incredible story. And from that, I'm really hearing you say that you're willing to get down and dirty and do any job that makes sure we have that makes sure things go forward. You know, what I heard is that you're not too good to do any type of job. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's correct. The job, sometimes it's a job just to get up a flight of stairs. I'm 72 years old. And even though the body is 72 years old, the mind thinks it's still 20.
Hey, that's okay.
And the mind never stops. And so, you know, when I get down into it and the things that are going on, Cedar City and the functions of a city are very, very hands-on. They are people, but they're also pipe, and they're all these sewer systems and all these parks and all these rec centers and so forth. All of these things are down and dirty jobs, and we do those. We don't all sit behind desks at the city and think of work for other people to do. We do a lot of work at the city, and we have wonderful employees who are really dedicated to the jobs they do.
That's awesome. And with the different aspects of you getting the mayorship, kind of tell us about Cedar's structure and, you know, what a mayor position really does.
Well, a mayor is somewhat of a figurehead. He does not have a vote on the city council. We elect 5 city council men or women, and we have wonderful council people in our council now, some with many years service and some brand new, one brand new. They're all wonderful people, and we're very fortunate to have them. The mayor conducts the meeting, calls for the votes, but does not have a vote. So when the actual decision body is the city council.
Garth, let's talk about your first 100 days. Earlier in the segment, you were saying that there's a lot of plumbing and pipe and facets and faucets and things going on in the community. Tell us what your vision is for the first 100 days.
Well, first of all, I want to find out where they hide the paper clips.
The paper clips, of all things.
You know, I've never worked in government. I've never been an elected official, and I've never worked for a city, not ours or anybody else's. So I'm a businessman, and I come to the city in the perspective of a businessman. I'm very comfortable in an office, but I didn't know and don't know. I didn't know most of the employees. I find they are wonderful, and part of my job, the first 100 days, the very first thing I needed to do was get acquainted. And so I go from desk to desk around the city office building and talk to people. I find fascinating people who love their jobs and are very dedicated to it, and they know all of the little things that all of us ignore from day to day. I've been ignoring the city. If the traffic light is broke, I'm upset, you know, and yet somebody is keeping the water running. I never have a time when I turn my tap on that water doesn't come out of it.
Agreed.
And every time I flush, it magically disappears. I think that's wonderful. And I appreciate all the people that are involved in that. There's a huge infrastructure in the city. It's complicated. My first visit to the wastewater treatment plant at the bottom of 2300 West was a fascinating experience, and what a wonderful facility, and well ran and well managed by, and Eric Bonzo's our lead guy out there, and what a dynamic individual he is and how well he runs that plant, to be appreciated by everyone. So, you know, in 100 days, first find the paper clips, then to get acquainted, certainly, and to start to understand that infrastructure. I'm going to be focusing on water. I'm going to be looking for new sources of water. I'm going to try and find ways to rest our aquifer, because we've been issued a very stern plan by the state water resources people that says we're overdrawn on our aquifer, particularly at Wichita. And I have to understand the well. So I've been out and I've been in every well house in the valley now, those out at Wichita and those up in Enoch, and I've been to those wells, and I've started to study and understand where all the tanks are, where the pressures are, where the pipe is run. I have to understand that. Now, that to me, that's a natural, because I've been in the pipe valve and fitting business for 32 years. So to understand that, when I go into a well house and I see that they're changing from meters that twirl in the pipe to ones that read magnetically across the field, I understand a little bit about that.
Right.
And it's great to see that Cedar City has amazingly good equipment and up-to-date equipment, and in super repair with backups, with rows of spools that are ready to go in when a well fails. Now in the winter that's not so serious because we don't use as much water, but in the summer, if we lose a well, that's a big deal. If we lose 2 wells, it's a really big deal, and our tank capacity and all those things that we don't think about are very much a part of it. So in the first 100 days, I had to get acquainted, find the paper clips, and figure out the infrastructure so that I can go to work on finding ways to solve our water crisis that we're in.
You know, there's, I think, an old analogy that goes out there to say you have to start with a strong foundation. You know, you can always go up from there, but if something's cracked on your foundation, then...
Don't build on it.
Right, exactly. So what I heard you say is you want to get to know what your foundation's like.
Right.
You want to see what this community's built on. You want to figure out how you can improve, if it needs to be improved, the foundation before we start really building and amplifying what we're capable of, which I think is such a strong aspect, because we really need somebody who understands, I'm going to call it the weed level, and the 10,000 foot level. Right now we're getting acquainted with all of the different nitty-gritty things like finding the paper clips and getting acquainted with our employees, to making sure that we have a strong foundation here in Iron County, and specifically the Cedar City, you know, township. With all of the different things within those capacities, what are you most excited to find?
Well, clearly the most excitement comes from finding out that we're in good shape. We have a good solid budget. Our city is well funded and is stable, and there are no financial issues that are just pressing that are causing us tremendous grief. Second of all, I find that we have wonderful employees, people that know our business, how we do this thing, how it all comes together. Third, I find that the structure that's out there is good and solid. The foundation is good and solid. But then there's an old adage that says, don't take down the fence until you figure out why it was put up.
Agreed.
Okay, so sheep people know that.
Yes.
But so here we are, you know, we do have a great city, we do have great employees, and we do have a great structure. But now how do we go forward? How do we solve our big problem, our crisis at the point, which is water that is under subject for review and for cancellation? We have to figure that out. But as long as those 3 things are in place, then it is time to look at how do we take down the fence and put it in a better location.
Agreed. So it leads me to believe with the growth and development that Cedar City is having, how do we manage the growth that we have, if not to say once our foundation is laid and once we understand what's there, how do we build sustainably?
The $1 million question.
Agreed.
It is a challenge. and people say to me all the time, you've got to stop building because we don't have enough water. And that's a very valid concern. Yeah, we have plenty of water for today. Do we have plenty of water for 50 years from now? We don't build a house for a year or 5 years or 10 years. We build a house for 100 years, right?
Yes.
So we have to provide. The city has to provide water for the 100 years and beyond. And when it's threatened, we have to find solutions. We have to believe that we're not going to overdraw our aquifer, that there is sufficient water if we continue to build houses and allow people to come. People say, well, water will control the growth. It will, and it must. And the way it must do that is we have to require water for development. We cannot just believe, because we do have a little water, but it's late date water, and it's subject to being canceled. We cannot just allow development without getting the old water that is acceptable to the state and will not be canceled in our vision and by the plan, so that we can develop further. And we need to do that. When they say water will control growth, it really will.
Garth, thank you so much. We really appreciate your comments and your vision of what's going to happen in the next, future of Cedar City and making sure we're planning appropriately. One of his passions is the Banana Split Book Club, and we're excited to hear some more details. So tell us how this idea got started and why you're so passionate about making sure kids get books in their hands.
Well, it's changed a little bit, and it's going to be carried on in the city a little different. But let me go back to the beginning. About 5 years ago, I had a grandson and a granddaughter who were struggling to learn to read. One of them was in the third grade, and one of them was in the first grade. And they were struggling to read, and I was trying to help them to read. And I was trying to come up with ways to help them. So I said, look, let's read these books, and then we'll watch a movie, and we'll eat some food. And maybe that was a good incentive. And that was the beginning of the BSBC, the Banana Split Book Club. So I invited my other grandchildren, and they said, can we invite our friends? Neighbor kids found out about it, and they got into it. So we started reading books, and they would then come to my house, where they would all sit on the floor in front of the TV, and we would watch the movie that was made from the book. Now, anybody who reads books knows that the book is always better than the movie.
Yes.
And so I wanted them to read the book first and then come to the book club. And we started with pizza in the middle. We had 2 books and 2 movies. We'd eat pizza in the middle. But at the end of all of it was a banana split. And it's a very simple treat. It's a banana cut in half, split down the middle, a scoop ice cream, and they get to put the toppings on, right?
Yeah.
That's a banana split. And so I started the book club. Kids came and they were successful. One day, if I may, my granddaughter was preparing to come to the book club, eat the pizza and the banana split and watch the movies. And her mother said to her, you're not going. And she says, why not? She says, you haven't read the book. Oh. And she says, Grandpa will let me come. He won't mind.
Oh, no.
And she said, he might, but I won't, and you're not going. Well, what about my brother Jaron? Oh, he's going. Well, why does he get to go? Because he read the book.
Oh, goodness.
And guess what? She was the little gal that was struggling to read, and guess what she did the next time we had the BSBC?
She made sure to read her book.
She read the book, and since that day, the first book, a chapter book, she read it, and from that day on, she's been a reader.
Oh, how incredible.
One book.
Well, and it's
and
incredible.
A banana split.
Those are great incentives. Who wouldn't want ice cream and banana with a little bit of caramel sauce? It's incredible the passions that we can take from our own lives and instill into our children's or grandchildren's lives through simple acts, simple incentives of making sure that their education goes well beyond our knowledge in incentivizing them in different things. So may I ask, which was the first book?
Well, the very first book that I introduced to some of my grandchildren was The Client by John Grisham. Now, that's really not a child's book. It's about a 13-year-old boy, but it's definitely a serious book. But we've read books like Babe, Holes, Hatchet, Peppy Longstockings, the Bear, Paddington the Bear, Charlotte's Web. I could go through I should have brought a brochure.
No,
there's lots of them. So the difference is going to be the way we offer it in the city. I could not imagine. I'm going to introduce this to the entire Iron County School District. We could have 1,000 kids just from the grade schools that want to participate. Can you imagine 1,000 banana splits in the hands of 7- and 8-year-olds in the city library.
That might be a little more interesting.
That will be really interesting. So I've been working with Steve Decker down at the library, and he's outstanding. He's fantastic. We've come up with a plan where we will make this the summer BSBC.
Okay.
So we will start in May registering the kids and getting their book. They will come to the library on days and nights. Should have brought a brochure. I didn't know we were talking about that.
No, you're fine.
I have the brochure ready, but it'll start in May. And they will pick up their new book and they eat a banana split. The banana splits will be provided by a food vendor that I'll contract with in the parking lot. And if we offer it in the summer, it's nice and warm, they can spill their banana splits on the city park, not in the city library.
Although I don't know if the Parks and Rec department
They might not like that.
They haven't
heard that yet, so don't tell them.
No, I won't.
But so the idea is we'll offer it every Thursday, all day long. Movies start at 9 in the morning. They run till 5 at night. There'll be 4 different movies every day, and you get the books from the library. I'm going to provide from the salary that I make, which is small, but it's adequate. I'm going to buy books and banana splits, and I'm going to provide that to the library. We'll have at least 1,000 books, probably 1,500 of these little books. There will be 10 books that will be on the movie rotation that we bought the rights to show the movie, and then we'll contract with a food vendor for the banana splits. So a kid will come and they'll get the book, say Paddington. They'll get a banana split, get the book. They'll go home, they'll read the book. The mom or the aunt or grandma or anybody will sign a little tag. They'll come to the library, turn it in, and they'll get a card that entitles them to the banana split. They watch the movie, they go out to the food truck with their friends, get their banana split, and in the meantime, they picked up the next book, checked it out of the library. A library's a library.
Right.
Books are all free. Doesn't matter whether they read my books or books in the library, a book they have at home. I really don't care. If somebody says they read a book, they get a banana split. And if they can watch a movie, it's okay. What if they haven't read the book? I don't care. And what if an adult comes in there? They get a banana split, right? They bring the kids. They should get a banana split. Everybody should get a banana split. Everybody should be reading a good book, and everybody should be enjoying the library.
What an incredible way to bring this community together, Garth. We are so excited to have you in our mayorship position for the next 4 years. Talk about one department specifically and where it's going in this next couple of years and the development that's going to happen. Garth, let's talk about it.
Okay. Well, I was just mentioning Parks and Recreation, and it is a very interesting, very active group. And we have some wonderful people there and some extremely dedicated people there. And it's been in the news so much the last year and a little over a year and a half or so since the rec center, at the aquatic center went down in a referendum or tried to go down. It's interesting because we have a community that is very conservative and is reluctant to spend money, but also we have a lot of kids who want to play baseball. And there's a lot of kids that want to play basketball. And there's a lot of moms who want to go to the park. And if you watch our parks around town, they are busy a lot of the time. If the kids are out of school, they're busy. And we need facilities for them, but we want to do it in a very, very conservative way because we're a very conservative community and we don't want to raise taxes for amenities. You know, it's the old way of thinking about things. If we want a park, we get out there and we plant some trees and we run a little sprinkler system and we plant some grass and we put up a swing and we have a park. That's the way I like to do things. I'm a simple guy, never had enough money. I was always self-employed and I was always broke. And I want to get these things, and I want to get them at the most reasonable way we can. And then I want to use them to the absolute optimum beneficial use. I want to get as much out of them as we can. There are people who have come before me. I went to a gym out in Enterprise and thought it was fantastic. It's in a metal building. It cost, the people that built it, this was 3 years ago, was $230,000, and it had the the Fairflex flooring system in it, the basketball floor. It's a full-size basketball floor with 2 restrooms and a drinking fountain. And I said, we could do those in Cedar City. And furthermore, we've got developers, people who have been successful in town that will put up money. And I have 3 that have committed that they would put up the gym if the city would put up the property, and if the neighborhood would plant the grass and put in some trees and some swings and whatever,
right.
If the community would rally, and rather than having them in one central location on the hill, they would have them in neighborhoods, and they become neighborhood parks, and the people would have a vested interest in them because they worked on them, and the developers would maybe throw up a gym to show appreciation for the 1,000 people who bought lots in their subdivision.
Yes, yes.
And certainly Jennifer Weaver would be happy. She's the one that runs our athletics, our sports programs for the city. And she needs basketball floors and volleyball courts and all these things that we don't really have. And we could have them and not have new taxes at all. Very easily.
Well, and it's really incredible the community the community gatheredness from that. Because the developments that have been going up, there's reserved spots for parks in those.
There is.
And because of the development of Cedar City, I mean, I remember, well, not me specifically, but I've seen pictures of Cedar City being as, wide as I think 5th or 6th South and to the ditch, and in between us and Lay Hill, that big. We have gone well beyond those borders. We need more parks in different areas, so it only takes 2 or 3 minutes. And they're neighborhood parks. I was raised in this area, and I remember thinking of the parks more like a sandlot park. You ride your bike a couple of blocks. Your parents know that you're at the park. It's a safe area for our communities to grow and develop. We need more kids getting associated with dirt, meaning we need more parks. And I think this is a great idea to become synergistic with business owners and making sure that everybody comes together and really gets that community mentality back. I feel like there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last 20 years that have divided us or segregated us into very distinct patterns. And we need to be more in the mind of growing this community together. And I think these are a great way to do that.
Neighborhoods. We will become neighborhoods. We can't help it. It will happen to us. We will consider ourselves in sections of town. We all say fiddlers. We all know what fiddlers means.
Yes.
That's a neighborhood. And if we can create an entertainment, a recreation, a sports complex or sports thing, very reasonably, not too big, but in a neighborhood where the kids can walk through the neighborhood or ride the bike through the neighborhood. Not everybody has the ability to take off work and deliver their kids to a central recreation center. But if our kids come home and they have out of school and they have nothing to do, they will all get on their phones and they'll waste 5 hours when they really need to be out shooting a few hoops. And so I envision these athletic centers and these neighborhood parks being places where they can get to it. They're not manned. There's nobody at the gym. They have an access code, and mom can say, hey, I went on and I reserved the gym from 4 until 5 for you and your friends tonight. You can go play ball, but don't mess it up because they have my credit card on file, and there's about 43 cameras in that thing. So y'all better behave, but go put in this code and you got the gym. You and your friends have got the gym for an hour. And I know, that may be unrealistic to believe that my children alone can go and occupy the whole gym, because I think Jennifer Weaver can keep that gym hopping from the minute school gets out until 10 o'clock at night. And I think Ed Severance and his people and all the pickleball people in town will keep it busy from 6 in the morning till about 10:30 playing pickleball, and somebody will clean it in between. And I think these gyms could be doing. I go to the one in Enterprise. I asked my granddaughter, I said, I want to come watch one of your ball games. I said, are they out? She said, there's one on Saturday. I said, well, it's got to be early because I've got stuff in the afternoon. She said, my last ball game started at 6:30 in the morning. I said, 6:30 in the morning? You're 13, 14 years old. Did you even know there were 2 6s on the clock? And she said, yeah, I have to be up and over at the gym by 6:30 in the morning to play ball because it's scheduled for ball games
Back to
constantly
back.
all day long.
What a great community resource. Garth, we are so excited to have you in the mayorship of Cedar City. I'm so looking forward to the development of what you have planned for in the next 100 days, over the next 4 years, of what you're going to change this community into. Now, I hope you do find the paperclip sooner rather than later, but I'm excited for you and the city employees to get acquainted with you and the vision that you have for Southern Utah. Thank you so much for joining us with what's really happening in Southern Utah. I'm your host, McKennan Hansen, and thank you for joining us, Mayor Garth Green.